Pritchett.
Here.
Bevins.
Here.
W. Erickson.
Here.
T. Erickson.
Here.
Lambert.
Here.
Stunek.
Ho, ho, here.
Johnson.
Here.
And Bedeau.
Here.
Okay, that brings us to item number 3, which is the approval of the agenda. Looking for a motion.
Move to approve, Bevins.
Second, Pritchett.
A motion by Bevins, a second by Pritchett to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. That brings us to the next item, number 4, the consent calendar. Notice to public, all matters listed are considered routine by the council and will all be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call.
Lambert move.
Second.
We have a second by a motion by Lambert, second by Erickson. Any discussion on the consent calendar? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, item number 5. Looks like it's Mayor Bedeau hour. 5A, Community Member of the Month. Mayor Bedeau, take it away.
That's right. This meeting is front loaded with so much of me. So, get your seatbelts ready because it's going to be a bumpy ride. This first item here, we're getting back to the community members of the month. And just want to say that with COVID and all these virtual meetings, it's been tough to presented. It's a little weird to present something via X, but I want to bring this one and I'm going to toss it over to Dave Pritchett, because Dave Pritchett actually presented this to me as something he would like to see happen, and I absolutely agree. The community member of this month is the healthcare workers. I want to toss it over to you and let you speak just briefly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's unfortunate there's precious little that we can do to help out those who are on, the front lines, doing what they can to help our community members who are ill, the families of members who are ill. I'm sure all of us know somebody who's working in healthcare and know how hard they're working, how much they're basically pushing it, burning the candle at both ends to make sure that they're doing the best and all that they can to ensure the safety and quality of life in our community. And so this is probably the least that we can do, but at least it's something that we can do. Again, just to express our gratitude, to say thank you. There are heroes in this fight, and it is a fight, and just to let the healthcare workers know and their families know that I have nothing but admiration for the job that they've been doing, and they deserve everything that they can get in gratitude for the job they've done.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to second that, and I really want to thank you for bringing this to my attention and asking that we do this, because you are right. It is the least that we could do, but things like this and recognition like this are really important in our community. That's the whole point of the Community Member of the Month. It is to show recognition to people that aren't asking for it, but are deserving so. And I really appreciate the inclusion of the families here, because I don't think people realize the sacrifice that happens when people are involved in the healthcare industry right now. There's a large toll on the families involved, and even just spouses as well. When one person comes home and there's a potential to have been exposed, the amount of stress that brings into a household. And we're all a part of this year of 2020, and we're all a part and affected by COVID in so many ways. But the people that are out there that are dealing with it and are in scenarios where they are walking into and not from the virus, it is a completely different scenario. And with that, I really want to extend from the entire city thank you to all of the healthcare workers of Crow Wing County and their families, December's community members of the month.
Well said, Alderman Pritchett and Mayor Bedeau. That's a great idea to honor somebody this month. I see Wayne stepped up the festiveness. Good job, Alderman Erickson, liking the necklace. Brings us to 5B, presentation of Tower Awards to departing council members Lambert and Erickson. Mayor Bedeau.
Oh my gosh, you're stuck with me again. Hold on a second. What's this? I've got a present here. I don't know who it's for. There's no to or from. I better open it. Well, that took longer than I thought it would. Power Awards. Not one, but two. To sitting members of the council. And for those of you who don't know what the Tower Awards are, these are very prestigious awards that the city hands out to people who, again, go above and beyond and are deserving of recognition. And in this instance, for both of the members, both Council Member Jan Lambert and Wayne Erickson, I want to say this to you, that I'm a firm believer in the idea of doing. There are so many people out there that love to sit on the sidelines and preach what we should or should not do. But there are very few people day-to-day work. And for someone to run for council week after week, month after month, year after year, and continue to do the busy work, do the tough work, do the work that maybe might not be the most popular, or sometimes make you, a villain in other people's eyes. It is a tough thing. I want to thank both Councilwoman Jan Lambert and Wayne Erickson and for stepping up and doing the work. So with that, I have these wonderful Tower Awards that, again, it's so easy to present to you this award through the internet. But I just want to say thank you to you guys. And I hope that you continue to be a part of the city as we move forward.
Mr. Chair, this is Jan Lambert. Thank you very much, Dave and City Council. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to say thank you to the mayor and to the city council. And I'm going to take this point and say I've enjoyed working with you. I've learned a lot. And you know what? Nobody can take that knowledge away from me. So you're kind of stuck here. I'm going to be in Brainerd for a while. So thanks again.
Thanks, Jan. Wayne, do you have anything?
I just,
Well, now I got
too.
a bunch of committees. So
Thank you very much for that award. Do I pick that up at the city in your office, Mayor? At the city office there at the mayor? Do I pick that up there?
we'll have to figure out a better way to get it to you. So we'll converse.
Yeah, I think they'll be at City Hall, Wayne.
Do a drive-by?
Don't use that word.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Bedeau. Very thoughtful awards to two deserving members of the City Council. Bye-bye. That brings us to 5C, the Brainerd Community Action Annual Presentation. And instead of recognizing the mayor here, I'll actually recognize Kevin Stunick, our liaison to Community Action, to introduce their board president and executive director.
I will do that. I will introduce Dave Bedeau, as our executive director of community action, and he's doing an excellent job, and I'm hoping he's using his vacation. So take it over, Dave.
Well, I believe
Left.
we've got, I believe we have Kim Rollins on here with us.
Yep, I'm here.
There's,
I like that.
there we go. Sorry, I'm cutting out a little bit. So,
Should we have
before
Kim
you guys, you
report?
have our presentation. Before you get the information from community action from this year, we won't take up a bunch of your time. I know that your time is precious and these presentations can get really long. Financial information from this last year, as well as the 3 proposed budgets that we have for ourselves moving forward for 2021. That we were being safe with our funding and that we weren't overextending ourselves. One of the biggest things for us is that traditionally about 43% of our funding last year it was kind of tossed out the window. So with what we're doing of our efforts and really looking to batten down the hatch, we weren't making any type of expenses that we didn't need to be doing. This year really became about us driving forward the mission of what Brainerd Community Action is and trying to get that message out to the masses in a way that is fiscally responsible. Kim, I don't know if you have anything you want to add?
First of all, thank you for having us. And second of all, I just want to say we're appreciative of Dave's extreme work jumping in right when COVID hit. So he's done a phenomenal job. He's been out in the community talking about community action, and we're just appreciative of everything that he's done this year when he was kind of thrown to the wolves in a really, I hate this word, but unprecedented year. So thank you, Dave, for all that you've done for Brainerd Community Action. I think we are turning to be a really, really good board. We are growing and we are learning, and we're just thankful that we have the support of the community.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Dave Bedeau. Are there any questions from any members of the City Council of Community Action? Well, seeing no questions, I'll just say, like I told the Arboretum director last week, Dave, it's not easy to jump into a new job and a new career at the beginning of a pandemic, and that is one thing you did, and hats off to you for doing it and doing a good job with it according to your employers. So congratulations for that, and thank you for doing that for the city, and I look forward to 4th of July next year.
He's going to need a
it'll be
bigger
interesting.
closet for all his hats.
Too many hats. No, we look forward to next year as well, and obviously, as you can see with our budget, we're 2021 is up in the air, but we're going to find a way to make and as community based as we possibly can.
Excellent, thank you. Seeing no other questions or comments from the council, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is item number 6, council committee reports. 6A is Safety and Public Works Committee, Alderman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have one item on the agenda, and it is the improvement 17-08, the Garfield Safe Routes to School final pay application. And the motion is to accept staff's recommendation, authorize the final pay application in the final project amount of $1,137,123.20. This estimate is $72,600.52 to Concrete Idea Inc., roughly 1.6% under budget, and 90% of which is funded by state aid funds. And I so move. And federal funds.
Lambert, second.
We have a motion by Bevins and a second by Lambert. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries.
End of report.
Thank you, Alderman Bevins. That brings us to item letter B, Personnel and Finance Committee. Alderman Pritchett.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item, and that is to ratify a community service officer hiring. Motion coming out of committee is to ratify the hiring of Andrew Lewix for the position of community service officer effective January 4th, 2021 at the starting wage of $11.67 per hour, and I so move.
Second, Erickson.
We have a motion by Pritchett, a second by Tad Erickson. Is there any discussion? Pritchett?
Mr. President, thank you. This was created by a resignation on October 22nd of Officer Hannah Tolbert. The council accepted the resignation, approved the filling, and so we're pretty much on schedule with this then.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries.
End of report.
Thank you, Alderman Pritchett. Great job with the committee reports today, guys. I love it. That brings us to item number 7A, public hearing and resolution, SP 1814-08, South 6th Street reconstruction, fiscal year 2022, the consideration of a MnDOT municipal consent. Is this Paul, probably? Take it away, Paul.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. As you kind of see in the agenda request, we've been working a couple of years on this with MnDOT. This is for the reconstruction of South 6th Street from where we left off in 2018 at Joseph Street down to just south of Greenwood Street is where the reconstruction ends. MnDOT is continuing on with a mill and overlay from there to the bypass. So the project is slated for fiscal year 2022. As far as the layout is concerned, the 3-lane section will remain for the portion that is being reconstructed. As you can see, when I did pass out the layout around, there are some concrete medians that are being added in locations where left turn lanes aren't present. We were awarded some federal funding for the installation of a sidewalk where it stops at Joseph Street, and that would continue down to Buffalo Hills Lane, where it would tie into the Buffalo Hills Trail. Subsequently, the city turned that federal money over to MnDOT, in which they agreed to perform the design and cover the city's 20% match of the construction costs for those federal funds. So we're getting that sidewalk at no additional expense to the city besides getting the grant awarded to us. We have a couple of water crossings that we'll be placing on behalf of BPU. There's no sanitary sewer work that is planned for this project, so it will be a much less intrusive project as far as utility work is concerned compared to the 2018 project. Most of the cost share items are just related to cost shares on items such as storm sewer. We'll have some signal cost share for Buffalo Hills Lane, and then the city intends on paving the rest of Greenwood Street. MnDOT is going to realign that street to come in at 90 degrees to the highway and pave that section. There's another 1,000 feet that needs to be paved to finish that off up to Woodland Hills Lane. So it makes sense to do that at that time. At the last council meeting, the council elected to receive public comment regarding the layout. So we set the public hearing and published it in the Brainerd Dispatch. And so that's what we're here to do tonight. Luke Wessler, I believe the MnDOT project manager, is on the phone. I think he will be available to answer any questions that either the council or potential citizens may have about the input. So at this time, I guess the council could open the public hearing.
Thank you, Paul. I only had one question, but you answered it in your comments. My one concern with this project is that MnDOT did follow through with that sidewalk from Joseph Street down to the industrial park, and that is part of the project, so that's good. Are there any other questions or comments from council members before I open up for public comment?
Mr. Chair, I've got a question for Paul, if I could.
Yeah, Tad, take it.
President. Hey, Paul, this is Tad. Will this project affect, I think, is it the corner of South 6th and Spruce? Is that little holding pond area across from National Bank? Will this project have an impact on that? I know you and I have talked about that, and I know the property owner had reached out to me in the past.
Yes, thank you, Alderman. We are planning at the last meeting, we adopted a resolution in which turns that pond area over to MnDOT as right of way, which basically allows them to use trunk highway funds to construct a stormwater pond. So the current plan there, and you can see it on the layout, is MnDOT intends on purchasing 2 additional lots there, and that will expand that pond substantially to be able to help the situation that we have going on there with some localized flooding during heavy rain events, along with taking MnDOT stormwater that they'll be inputting into that system. And then it will have an outlet structure, which does not exist today. It'll have an outlet structure that outlets back into the storm sewer system once the treatment has occurred to the stormwater. So that's kind of the plan. It's kind of like a potato-shaped stormwater pond that follows Spruce Drive from those 3 lots. So we are taking care of that situation that does exist today.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you, Tad. Any other council questions? Seeing none, we will open the public hearing at 7:52 p.m. Let's unmute the call-in users if we can. 7:52 p.m. Let's unmute the call-in users if we can.
Request to unmute have been sent.
Requests, that's right. So if you're here to speak on the public forum or the public hearing for the municipal consent on the South 6th Street project, please say your name and address. If you're here to speak on it, we sent you, if you are on your telephone, we sent you an unmute request. You will need to accept it to unmute and then state your name and address. And then we can hear your public comment. If you're here to speak in the public hearing, please state your name and address. If you're here to speak in the public hearing, please state your name and address. Hearing nobody come forward, we will close the public hearing. Hello?
Doyle.
Jeremy Doyle, you're recognized. What's your address?
147 Birchridge Drive.
Okay, let's hear what you have.
Well, my question is, when this goes in, how is that going to affect the corners of Birchridge and I think it's Paul, so the next one over? I saw in there something about a concrete median being put in on the left turn lane, and I was wondering how that affects that.
Okay, maybe Paul or Luke can handle that question.
I'm looking at it currently, Mr. Chair. Give me 1 second. I'm looking at the layout. I don't believe any of the left turn lanes are gone. Luke, is that correct?
Correct. There is a concrete median going in between Birch Ridge and Paul Street because they're a little bit offset. And that's where the concrete median's going in. But the left turn lane to Birch Ridge will still exist at that location. And the left turn lane to Paul Street will still exist at that location too.
So I'll still be able to turn left out of Birchridge on the South 6th Street, or am I going to have to take the right?
You still be able to take a left off of Birchridge to go north. Yep. You still be able to do that also.
Okay, that's what I was curious about.
Thank you. So the median is to prevent people going from Birchridge to Paul, not to prevent any 6th Street movements?
No, the median is actually just there for actually a refuge for pedestrian crossings. It's not to prevent any traffic maneuvers at all.
So we'll
that
still
median
be able
there.
to walk it. So I'll still be able to walk across the street with my kids to get over to Bain Park.
Yes, yep, and that was a higher. We did head counts out there, and that was a higher crossing there. So that's why we need that median there for that.
So the median should enhance pedestrian safety.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, if you're here to speak in the public hearing, please state your name and address. If you're here to speak in the public hearing, please state your name and address. If you're here to speak in the public hearing, please state your name and address. Hearing none, let's mute the remaining unmuted call-in users, and that brings us, and then we'll close the public hearing at 7:56. And then that brings us to the adopting the resolution for municipal consent. Alderman Pritchett.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Second. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tad.
We have a motion by Pritchett, a second by Tad Erickson to adopt the resolution giving municipal consent on the South 6th Street project for fiscal year 2022. Is there any council discussion? Seeing none, we will vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. And that's all you needed for this agenda item, Paul?
That is correct, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to 7B, the final reading of proposed ordinance 1513, an ordinance amending the Brainerd City Charter. City Administrator Bergman recommends to dispense with the actual reading. So here we have to hold a public hearing, consider the testimony from the public hearing, hold the final reading or dispense with it, then adopt the ordinance. So we'll start with, I'll start with, are there any council questions on this before I open a public hearing? These are the charter amendments we talked about a month ago, I think. Okay, so not seeing any council members, we will open a public hearing at 7:58. Let's send unmute requests to the call-in users.
Requests have been sent.
If you're here to speak in the public hearing for proposed ordinance 1513, please state your name and address. If you're here to speak on proposed ordinance 1513, please state your name and address. If you're here to speak on proposed ordinance 1513, please state your name and address. Seeing nobody come forward to speak, we will close that public hearing at 7:58. Now it's time to consider the testimony and alternatives. We heard no testimony. That'll bring us to holding the final reading and dispensing with the actual reading.
So move, Bevins.
Second, Stunek.
We got a motion by Bevins and a second by Stunek. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Then the last action on this proposed ordinance is to adopt the ordinance.
Lambert, so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Lambert and a second by Tad Erickson to adopt proposed ordinance 1513. Is there any discussion? I would just like to remind everybody, for this to pass, it does need to be a unanimous city council vote in the affirmative. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, That motion carries. The ordinance is adopted. And we covered everything we needed to do there, Joe. Okay, that brings us to
Yes, yes.
7C. Yep, thank you. 7C, the 2021 levy and budget. First action is to adopt a resolution setting the city and HRA levies for 2021. Alderman, well, Connie, you have something you want to say first?
I just wanted to say that there is a representative from the park board that they would like to address the council before the adoption of the budgets. I can see that Mr. Yeager is on
Okay.
the.
Kevin, do you want to address us before we set the levy, or before we adopt the budget, or doesn't matter?
Entirely up to you, Mr. President.
I'll give you the floor now. You're unmuted.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President, members of the council. I just did want to mention real quickly that we did choose to amend our budget that we presented to you guys earlier. That was a unanimous decision by our park board, and I just want to say that really that decision didn't come from a place of not having a home for the money. We definitely could find a place to place that money, but it did come from the park board cultivating a narrative that really wants to exhibit financial and fiscal responsibility to not only you guys as a council, but also as the taxpayers of Brainerd. We really are still struggling, and we are putting the pieces in place to really fully understand what our budget could and should look like. We know that we have maintenance concerns. We also know that we've fallen behind and don't fully understand the long-term capital costs of running our parks, but we're working on it. So we just want to exhibit to you guys that when we bring to you a budget, it means that's what we are asking, and if something changes, we're more than happy to give it back. And I use give it back in air quotes. So thank you so much for your guys' support, and we really appreciate having you as a partner in our endeavors.
Thank you, Commissioner Yeager. Yeah, that was, I think with the restructuring, you're referring to about $75,000. The park board was able to reduce their initial budget request by into this final budget, and that's 1.5% of the levy. So it's meaningful, and it's good that the parks, and like I've said before, Kevin, what you and Kara are doing there, and the whole park board, I think is just fantastic that you're digging in and looking to the long-term needs. And things are going to cost money over the years, but it's to make our parks as good as they can be, and that's really the ultimate end goal there. So then that will bring us to adopt a resolution setting the city and HRA levies for 2021. I'll recognize Alderman Pritchett, the chair of the Personnel and Finance Committee, but I'll also remind you, Alderman Pritchett, when you make the motion, also set the HRA levy. We didn't do that in September.
Make a motion to set the levy at $6,133,163 plus $136,519 for the HRA.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? You want to speak to the motion, Alderman Pritchett, or what percent increase this is and whatnot?
So it'll be a 1% increase. I know we had originally talked about 4%, but with some of the information that we've gotten, we were able to lower that to 1%. That should be able to cover all the expenditures, give us some money for some of the unknowns and some of those capital projects that might be creeping up on us, things like the water tower. All right.
Thank you, Alderman Pritchett. Is there any other discussion from the council on the adoption of the levy for 2021? Alderman Stunek.
I know this might surprise you, but I totally agree.
I like to see you agreeing on a 1% increase. I really do.
Thought he was going to go higher.
Oh, no, I'm good at one.
Yeah, no, I support this too. I'm glad we're in a financial position this year, at least, again, that we can, work to reduce that overall tax rate that affects especially the homeowners and residential property owners in our city. So this is a good work by Connie and Jennifer and everybody on the council. This is just easy to pass the budget this year, I think. Any more discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson,
Yes.
T. Erickson,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Stunek,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries, and that brings us to C2, a motion to adopt the 2021 budgets. I'll bring it back to the Chair of Personnel and Finance, Alderman Pritchett.
Move to adopt those budgets.
Second, Stunek.
We have a motion by Pritchett, a second by Stunek. Connie?
I just have a question. Does council want the additional funds, the funds reserved in the general fund, or do they want to put it into the capital fund? How would you like to see the budget presented?
I think in the general fund, Alderman Pritchett, what do you think?
Okay,
Agree with that also.
thank
I
you. Then
agree
it
with
is
the
as,
general.
as they are presented, so thank you very much.
We're adopting it as presented. Are there any council comments on it? Alderman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, once again, will be voting against this budget. I say this every year, so I think it's worthwhile to say again, I don't believe we should be continuing to fund Bedeau at the amount that we have, because we've already given them over $1 million over and above what Crow Wing County and Baxter have given together. Now, I've asked every year why we get charged so much more, and every year it doesn't get answered. And the reason it doesn't get answered is, the only reason I can think of, is because we keep giving them the money. Now, I'm not suggesting the money isn't worth it, or that Bedeau isn't worth it. That's not my argument. My argument is, why do we keep giving them so much more than Baxter and Crow Wing County without at least some justification? How do you face your constituents when they say, how come we pay more than $1 million over and above Baxter or over and above Crow Wing County? It just doesn't seem right. Again, I'm not disputing that they're not worth it. I just wonder why it's so much more. I'd like that answered before I approve the budget. Ever.
Thank you, Alderman Bevins. Any other council comments? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Bevins,
No.
W. Erickson,
Yes.
T. Erickson,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Stunek,
No.
and Johnson.
No, that motion carries 4-3. The next item on the agenda is 7D, committee recommendations recommended by Mayor Bedeau. Take it away, Mayor Bedeau.
Sorry, I'm getting interrupted right as I take a break from talking, and then I get interrupted. All right, so I've got a couple recommendations tonight. I'm just going to group these together, if that's okay with you guys. My recommendations tonight are Wayne Erickson. You may have heard of him. For both the Cable TV Advisory Committee and the Parking Commission. My other recommendation tonight is for the Brainerd HRA, which is a reappointment from November 16th.
Sorry, I was muted. I expected the mayor to talk for significantly longer. I think we could approve these all together, but if somebody has a reason not to, we can go one at a time. Alderman Bevins.
I have a motion to approve them both when you're ready.
All three, I'm ready. Or no, both, yep.
Move to approve.
Lambert, second.
We have a motion by Bevins, a second to Lambert to approve the mayor's recommendations. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Bevins,
Yes.
W. Erickson,
I'll withhold my vote.
T. Erickson,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Stunek,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. I hope Wayne's no vote was not a vote of no confidence in himself. I kid. It'll bring us to
My recommendation.
E, call for applicants. Back to the mayor.
Well, now I can talk for a couple more hours if you want me to, Gabe. I can do that. In me. But we'll make this quick as well. Mayor recommend these are website. We're going to give you that information so you have it. It is www.ci.brainerd.mn. And you can find all those applications for these wonderful positions. I am looking for the following 12/3 of said year. The Cable TV Advisory Committee, 2 terms expiring 2022, 1 appointment. Terms expiring 2020. And then I also have applications needed. Both the Water Tower Committee has 2 positions available. It's filled. So see you later. That one's good to go. And Jan Lambert, I'm calling on you. You said you got fake phone calls from me before saying that I needed your help. I'm calling on you. I'm going to ask you. I'm calling you to make you sign up for some commissions. I'm making you sign up for some commissions.
I am thinking
We're not
about
letting you go yet.
I have contacted Steph to find some fillable ones, so thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jan. Jennifer, you had your hand up before you have something to say?
I did, Mr. President. I was just going to suggest that maybe the mayor mute or shut off his camera. The mayor is a bit choppy.
Yeah. Shut your camera off, Dave. Maybe we'll hear you.
The mayor's done talking.
Pick your poison, Mr. President.
Yep. I got to stay unmuted. Okay, so that brings us to item 8. We have 2 items under 8, new business. 8A is the police chief job offer. So we need to figure out which of the candidates we want to hire. Alderman Pritchett, the chair of the Personnel and Finance Committee, has an idea on how we should do this. So I'll hand it over to you, Dave.
All right, thank you. I respectfully make a recommendation that we each write down our choice, hold up that piece of paper so it can be seen, and then on the roll call, read it off. That will prevent vote counting. We know nobody would ever vote count. And that since we have 3 candidates and 7 members, if we have one get a majority, it's done. If we have one get a plurality. So, for example, if we have 1 candidate get 3 and 2 candidates get 2, then we have a runoff between those 2 votes. We can do it the other way also. If we have, until we get somebody to get a majority, it shouldn't take any more than 3 votes max.
I like that recommendation, Alderman Pritchett, and that's what we'll go with. And it's what we've done when we've had appointed council members or mayors or anything, when we've had more than 2 candidates, is to make sure somebody gets a majority. And hopefully we get it in one round, but if it takes 2 or 3, we'll get there. So with that, right now, Jennifer, is there anything we need to do or know, or Chris, before we move forward with a vote?
Mr. President, both Chris Schubert and Gary Wires is here. Should you have questions or background on the process and what brought these 3 names to you?
Does anybody want a brief historical recount of the hiring process? Not seeing anybody jump up and down. So that'll just bring us to a vote. We have, I might get their names wrong, but Siebenik, Bayloon, and Vincent. So just write your vote down on a piece of paper, and then Jennifer will go through roll call, hold up your vote, say your vote so everybody can hear it, and we'll see if we'll have a person to extend a police chief job offer to within a few minutes here. Let's vote for the first round right now.
All right, Pritchett.
Vincent.
Bevins.
Vincent.
Wayne Erickson. Wayne, you are muted.
Well, I'm having a problem spelling the name. Dave, and his last name is I'm sorry, I don't have that.
What is the first name?
Dave, isn't it Dave?
No.
Oh,
George,
No.
Brent, and Victor.
Thank you.
Brent. Yeah, that's it.
All right, thanks. Tad Erickson.
Vincent,
Jan Lambert. Jan, can you also announce the name?
Are you talking to me?
You're mute.
Okay. Oh, Vincent,
Stunek
Brent Bedeau.
and Johnson.
Vincent.
Mr. President,
Yep.
that is 5 votes for George Vinson and 2 votes for Brent Balloon.
Thank you. That gives a simple majority to George Vincent. So we'll move forward on extending the police chief job offer to Mr. George Vincent. Gary, Chris, you want to just give us a brief rundown of what that's going to look like time frame wise?
Okay, thank you. The timeline will be, we'll move as quickly as possible. I will initiate the process this evening. One thing that I do recommend that the council do is appoint a subcommittee of the council or use a personnel committee if you could use your personnel committee that already exists to be your points of negotiation to work with me and Jennifer and Chris on the negotiation process. So that would be my suggestion, is to have them, act on your behalf, and then a final action would come back to you, when that's completed. Just so you know, in the case of Mr. Vinson, there are 2 things that need to happen. One is he needs to get what's called reciprocity from the Minnesota Post Board. I believe he has already initiated that process. I talked with him last week, so that will need to be done. And then a BCA background fingerprinting process that's standard operating procedure will need to be done as well. So there's a couple of things that need to happen in advance of finalization.
Thank you, Gary. So I'll take a motion to appoint our Personnel and Finance Committee to be the negotiating committee.
Lambert, so move.
Second, Bevan.
A motion by Lambert, a second by Bevan. Do you accept that charge, Alderman Pritchett?
Yes.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to appoint our Personnel and Finance Committee to handle the negotiations. Any discussion, Alderman Pritchett?
I just find it kind of ironic that the other committee appointed us. So.
Yeah. Easy.
No irony there at all.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. That brings us to 8, new business. Item B, amend interim organizational chart for the interim Public Works Department. Jennifer, is this you?
It is. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. At the November Park Board meeting, the board directed staff to review the tasks of the recreation coordinator, Katie Kaufman, and prepare a plan for moving forward with her position and how it worked within the interim Public Works Department. We did schedule a meeting on December 3rd. We did ask President Schaefer and Vice President Yeager of the Park Board to join us in that discussion. And the group also included Parks Director Saylor, Recreation Coordinator Kaufman, myself, City Engineer Sandy, Finance Director Hillman, and then HR Director Schubert. We really reviewed the tasks and the job description of the Rec Coordinator and the Parks Director. And after our discussion, it was recommended to have the Rec Coordinator report directly to the City Engineer during this interim period. At the December 15th Park Board meeting, the board authorized staff to present the revised organizational chart to the city council to their approval, and then to approve the interim change to this org chart as presented. Just a reminder, this is an interim starting actually effective December 19th and going to December 18th. We will check back in and review the progress of this probably sometime in the summer, late summer, to see how it's going.
Thank you. I have two questions. One, I don't have all that much experience in large organizations, organizational charts. Is it that common? Is it a good idea? I just don't think it's a good idea. Does it work to have the public works director answer to both the city administrator and a separate governing body? Who is the boss?
So thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. I think the way, and again, this is an interim, and I think this is one of the things that we're going to work out. At the end of the day, the city engineer reports to the city administrator and I report to the council. The park board, however, in the charter does have authority over what happens in the parks. So I think we're going to learn a lot in this first 6 months. The city engineer and the interim public works director reports to me and in turn the council.
Thank you. Which leads me to my second question. We have the rec coordinator. I don't have a lot of experience with large organizations and organizational flow charts and whatnot, but here I'm seeing the rec coordinator answers to the public works director and the park board. And to me, it just seems like if it's easier to have one person have a direct report, have one boss. So I just asked with the rec coordinator, who is answering to both the public works director and the park, who's the boss of the rec coordinator?
So, Mr. President, again, I'll stress that this is interim. One of the things that we did hear from the park board is that there will be some direction that is coming directly to staff from their perspective. When we first posed this org chart, we had the rec coordinator just reporting directly to the city engineer. We are certainly amenable to change that and remove that line from the rec coordinator to the park board.
I don't have a problem with this, and I support this, and knowing that it's interim and knowing that we're trying to figure it out as we go along, and we're just taking the steps to get there. And this is interim, and we'll figure out how it works and how it looks over the next year. So I do support this change, but I did just want to raise that one question 2 different times because I think it needs to be figured out before there's a final org chart that each employee needs to have one person or board that they answer to. Otherwise, they'd be pulled in multiple directions and it's not fair to the employees. But I support this change for the interim while we figure out what it looks like. Alderman Lambert.
I cannot support the rec coordinator answering to the park board because on Jennifer's presentation, she had mentioned that she would be directly answering to the city engineer. And that's not the case. That's not what this is showing. But I think if it is interim, I would rather have her going just to one boss. And if we need to have it go through the park board, that's what we should do in the year. But I do not think she should have to answer to both parties. So I would not support this organizational chart.
Thank you, Alderman Lambert. Jennifer, I'll let you respond to that. And I want to hear what Yeager has to say from a park board perspective. But Jennifer, you respond to Jan.
Mr. Chair, that was going to be my recommendation that Vice President Yeager is here from the park board, and I was going to suggest hearing from him. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, Vice President Yeager, could you tell us what the conversations were like at the park board and what you're thinking of this org chart?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. This chart here presents, obviously what everyone has seen here is that there's a bit of nuance here that's a little bit of an uncharted territory. And I think what we're seeing here is that A couple of things. Number one, how the charter functions within the the municipality of our city. But number two is that we really have two definitive scopes of work of which we manage through our park board. One is programs and recreational type work, and the other is parks and maintenance. So that's really what I think this flow chart is trying to show, is that the park board is kind of running two bodies simultaneously. And I'm 100% with Jennifer here in that we don't really know what this looks like or how it really should look. But I 100% agree that I would prefer that everything is linear and everyone answers to only one person. But as a team, we all have to figure out how that park board can basically run two separate divisions or scopes of work through one person, and without overwhelming one or the other. And I think that was kind of the mindset here is that if every single thing runs through Paul, including the parts and pieces that really aren't specifically to his scope of work, well then, we're bending a lot of work his way that maybe doesn't need to be, and then vice versa with Katie as well. So we're all kind of feeling this out a little bit, but that's the mindset, guys.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other council comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, this is Lambert again. May I ask?
Yeah.
I thought the programming and everything was being farmed out. So
some programming is. Kevin, you can speak to that. Some is, some is not.
Yes, Jan. So not all of our programming, all of our special events have been farmed out. We did release an RFP earlier in the year to conduct some exploration as to what the interest might be outside of City Hall, to have outside interest either take a look at those potentially in part or in full. And we had great response, but we did not feel that we were at a place where we could just 100% pass off every single aspect of our events and programs. Things like the Pumpkin Festival thing, special events. There's lots of special events that Brainerd has really grown accustomed to and really enjoys, and we just didn't feel like it was the right time to remove those or to force those upon somebody else who really wasn't asking for them. So we've still got a fair amount of programs, we've still got a fair amount of events, and we're excited about where Katie might take those for us in the future. So at least for now, the park board is committed to two avenues of primary work: programs and events, and parks and maintenance.
Does that answer your question, Jan?
Yes, it does. But I am wondering, instead of, can we reevaluate? I'm not going to be on the board, but could this be reevaluated in 6 months instead of a year to see how this org chart is working?
Is that a motion?
Yes, I will take that as a motion.
So we have a motion to adopt this temporary organizational chart to be reviewed after 6 months. Is there a second?
Second, Pritchett.
We have a second from Pritchett. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Jan?
I was going to say is I think we can evaluate what Katie's issue is, and then the park board could evaluate how their communications.
Mr. President.
I didn't know Katie had an issue. Kevin, you had something to say?
Thank you, Mr. President. The only thing I would say or would like to add to this is that I want everyone to remember that programs and events evolve over an entire year. We have winter sports that then turn into summer sports. We have spring events and then fall events. So I'm leery that in 6 months from now, we're going to have a realistic cross section of what this is going to look like. So that would be the only thing I would say or add to the 6 months versus the 1 year.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kevin. I think in 6 months we can just adopt it for another 6 months too. Though. Paul, you have something?
Yeah, and I agree with what Kevin said. From my perspective, with parks maintenance and things, my kind of plan is to take at least the first 3 or 4 months here, working with parks foreman, the rec coordinator, understanding what programs are run in each park, what maintenance needs are, going through the facility study, going through our current capital plan. I don't feel like the 6 months is going to give me a full cross section of what I need to see, a full summer's worth of maintenance work. There's just a lot of, I think I would like to see a full year. I don't know if the 6 months is going to be enough for me even to have a full understanding of how this works. So that's just my 2 cents.
Any other discussion? Kevin?
Well, listening to Kevin and listening to Paul, and I agree, I kind of tend to agree with what Jan has said and what you said too, Gabe, but I think a year gives us a reasonable amount, especially if we keep on top of it with Paul and the park board. So I would agree that we just keep a year. We can always reel it in if we have to.
Kevin? Kelly?
I'm voting for 12 months. We're going to be evaluating every day. Every day. So if there's an issue that comes up, you've got some really great people on the park board. You've got city council members. You've got Paul, the engineer. I think I don't know that we need to revote in 6. If it's not working, we're going to know.
Thank you, Kelly. That's a good point, and I hadn't considered the fact that a lot of the events, the Pumpkin Festival, is only run in October, right? The Easter event is only run in Easter, so it would take 12 full months to just kind of see the whole cycle of what goes on in the city, especially the Parks Department, in an entire year. So I think I'll vote no on this 12-month or the 6 month in favor of a 12-month. Unless Jan will amend her motion.
Thank you. That's what I was going to do. But so I will amend the motion for do a 12-month evaluation with the understanding that Katie can communicate if there is a concern on her part. Or
Do you accept that amendment?
Yep, it convinced me.
Excellent. So now we've amended the motion to be 12-month review, and Katie is allowed to speak to her supervisors if something's not working. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett. Pritchett?
Yes.
Bevins?
Yes.
W. Erickson?
Yes.
T. Erickson?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
Studek?
Yes.
And Johnson?
Yes, that motion carries. Thanks for sticking around for this one, Kevin. We needed you there. That brings us to item number 9, public forum. Let's send unmute requests to the call-in users.
Request sent.
If anybody is here to speak in the public forum and you're on the phone, we sent you an unmute request that you will need to accept. And then once you're unmuted, please say your name and address. Seeing that nobody unmuted, we'll end the public forum and we will go to staff reports. Any updates since the packet? Jennifer, any updates?
I have no updates, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Any other staff invites? Invites. Any other staff updates? Seeing none, we'll move right on to the mayor's report.
Well, seeing as you can't see me, I'm just going to go ahead and mute myself again. So no report tonight. But other than Merry Christmas.
Thank you. That brings us to council member reports. We'll go in the order I see. Alderman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make a shout out to what's going on at the Northern Pacific Center. If you haven't been down there, I went down and blew about $200. Local Express is open. That's a great place to go. I went to Goodies. I've got some of the popcorn right here. It's a great place to go, and it's really neat ambiance. So I hope you can still squeeze in a trip down there before Christmas. End of report.
Thank you, Alderman Bevins. Alderman Wayne Erickson.
Well, I'd like to say this is my last meeting, and I'd just like to express some things tonight to the city staff. I've been so impressed. I've only been on the city council for 7 months, but these 7 months have been very enlightenment, and I've been just really, I think of Chris Schubert, the HR director. She's phenomenal. The way she's so kind and patient. Connie Hillman, Financial Director. I don't know how she keeps all the numbers. Jennifer Bergman, you are amazing with the knowledge you possess. I've just been so pleased with the direction. Dave Chansky, great young man to work with. Paul Sandy, I hope you don't burn yourself out, but man, you're doing a great job. I've really been Dave Pritchett. I just really appreciate your good spirit. Kelly, sitting next to you, it's just been a joy to see your experience, and I'm really happy. Jan Lampert, I've enjoyed serving with you. I hung out with your husband, Mike, a lot, and just you're good people, and I thank you for that. Kevin Stunek, I love your attitude and the way you approach things, and your time with the city on the fire department. You've got a lot of great insight. Tad Erickson, what can I say? You're an Erickson. You're doing a fantastic job. Your youth and your wisdom is phenomenal. I'm proud to serve with you guys. And Dave Bedeau, listen, I've never, I don't know what to say. You're doing a great job. Thank you for taking on the responsibility. Gabe Johnson, listen, you do a great job as a chairman. You got a great mind. I think the leadership in our city, I am so impressed, and I'm so glad that I had a part of it. And now to go back into, civilian life, and I just cannot say enough good things about the city staff, the ones that I worked with, and the city council. I think I'm excited for you, and I'm excited to be part of the city. And just thank you so much for having this opportunity. And if things happen, I may run again. We'll have to see. But I just really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. All of you are good people. I can't go back and tell my citizens that I hit with it or rub shoulders with every day. What a great city council, great staff at the city hall. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you again. Thank you for the Tower Award. Thank you. That's very nice of you. That's my end of report.
Thank you, Wayne. Along with the great experience you've brought of being a businessman and a longtime citizen of this committee, I think what probably everybody here will miss most is the gratitude and the positivity and just the great attitude you bring to every meeting, Wayne. And that was just a perfect example of Wayne Erickson right there. And thank you for that. It was touching. Alderman Pritchett.
I would like to say thank you to both of the alderpersons that are not going to be with us next year. Thank you very much for your service, your insight, and your input. It was greatly appreciated. I would just like to ask our community to consider giving a special Christmas present to somebody out there. Show some appreciation for anything, especially the small things. Say thank you. Go out of your way just to show that somebody has done something to make you feel a little bit better. If we all do that, this will be a lot easier times to get through. So thank you and Merry Christmas and God bless.
Thank you, Alderman Pritchett. Alderman Stunek.
Yes. I echo everything that's been said. Thank you to all the staff that are working 24/7. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks, Jan. Thank everybody else. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Kevin. Alderman Tad Erickson.
Yeah, thank you. Just would like to thank our outgoing alder people, and then also certainly welcome our incoming ones as well. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Alderman Erickson. Jan, did I give you a chance? Everybody's jumping around on my screen.
No,
Go ahead, Jan.
no. May I?
Yep.
I'd like to echo what Wayne said. I have been very impressed with city staff, with our city employees, and with our council. I have enjoyed my 4 years on here, and I am myself and my family are very grateful to have that. I'm also grateful to have be available. 8 grandkids, they want to do that. So I wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And then I have a personal request I would like to ask the council. I chair the Rental Maintenance Code Committee. I would like to ask the council if I may continue doing that. I think we should have probably a couple, or at least probably next month, and we can bring it forward. But it's totally up to the council, but I'm just asking if I may be able to do that.
As far as I'm concerned on that question, I am comfortable with that. The committee has been meeting for years and you have been the liaison. And if you're going to be wrapping up here in a couple months, just for continuity's sake, are there any council members who oppose Jan finishing that commission for the city of Brainerd?
Go for it.
There you go. There's no opposition, Jan. You get to finish out that project. And then that leaves me, and I just want to say, Jan, it's been a pleasure serving with you for the last 4 years. And, you know, I'm grateful that you served on planning and zoning. That is one commission I hope to never serve on. And I'm glad you did that for us and did a good job and enjoyed it. So thank you for that. And as I already said, Wayne, your positivity and the gratitude you exude every day with your life is something I appreciate and wish I could spend more time with you, just so some of that could rub off on me and try to make me a better person maybe. So thank you for what you've brought to the council this year. And like I said to the Arboretum and Community Action Director, coming in at the beginning of a pandemic, showing the leadership you've shown this year to help get the city through where it wasn't easy, but you did it, and thank you for that. And then since Kelly Bevins gave a shout out to the NP shops, which are amazing. They also have the small shops with designs by Alyssa and the Smokehouse Barbecue Shop. Great Christmas shopping there. I would recommend everybody go check downtown. If you haven't shopped downtown, my family, between the NP Center and downtown Brainerd, were able to buy probably 85% of our presents this year. There are a couple we had to get online that just don't exist in town, but otherwise, shop these small businesses. The $20, $30 in the pocket of a sole proprietor who has their own business means a whole heck of a lot more than $20 or $30 in Jeff Bezos's pocket. So with that, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll see you on the other side of the new year in 2021. We'll be much better, we hope. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn to a closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D03 to discuss labor negotiation strategies.
Lambert, so moved.
Motion by Lambert, second by Pritchett. Any discussion? We'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. We'll take about a 2-minute break to clear the room and then meet for labor negotiation.
Kurt, do you want me just to leave and then I'll come back for the second closed session?